Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. The Seedle is finally officially back in business, and what a set of games we had to kick off the Major 1 qualifiers. All very competitive series, all very much down to the wire, at least in some of these situations. Loads of phenomenal individual performances. Early days to take big takeaways from this in terms of which teams and players are going to be good or bad for the season, but definitely some interesting storyline to keep up with. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. We've got to start, of course, with Boston versus Atlanta FaZe. Interesting in the sense that Slasher was up against his former team. They designed these matchups today very well indeed, I thought, in terms of storylines across the relative different teams, and Slasher versus FaZe was a big one. Of course, Priestahh has been on FaZe as well in the past. In addition to that, actually, when Slasher had played revenge games previously in, like, you know, his first revenge game, I guess, against LAG on Modern Warfare 2 against Thieves back in Vanguard, 2-0 in those situations with rather good performances. So you can definitely expect Slasher to turn up his game here for a revenge match, and that was the case pretty much until Game 5, and we'll get into that too in this series. Third revenge game against Atlanta FaZe. It started off in an interesting way, of course, Drazah versus Slasher. Nice storyline. Did FaZe make the right call? How good could Boston be? Because we saw earlier today the coaches poll had Boston at like 10th, 9th, something like that. Not looking so good apparently so far, but matches are always a bit of a different beast, and you will tend to find that scrims are one thing. When matches start, even online qualifier games, certain players are like kind of bigger game players, and when the matches begin, the pressure is a bit different, the comms are a bit different, a bit more energy, a bit more hectic at times, especially in clutch scenarios, so you do tend to find different results, in addition to the fact that we've seen lots of hardpoint scrims, lots of control scrims, but search and destroy is a bit of an unknown. And that's where you never really know how these series are going to go, even though the power rankings might say one thing at the start of the season. The reality of what that translates to when the matches begin is often a very different story indeed. So this was the map set. Unfortunately today, no sub-base. I was looking for a sub-base hardpoint bang out. Didn't happen. Lots of Karachi, lots of invasion, plenty of terminal as well. Invasion control, I'm not a big fan of this to watch. Karachi control, we'll get into in the OpTic series, an absolute banger, to be honest. So Karachi's pretty good for most of the game modes. It was the first 2 maps here of this series, and I'm sure we'll see lots of it this year, given the current state of the map pool and the fact that people don't seem to really like playing sub-base, which I do understand, but it's just kind of good fun. Now, I gotta say, really cool to see Maven and Merc in the studio here. We've seen for some time, I think they're in Columbus, aren't they? With iLLeY and Aimless and Puckett on the desk, but I don't think we've really had the casters in the studio. They usually just do it from home. So to have Maven and Merc there, I always think they're better. You know, in this kind of environment, in front of a crowd, I think Maven and Merc are fantastic. But in this environment, even better as well. So, you know, that's a nice touch to see go on as well. But let's dive into the series, because I thought this was going to be not that competitive. I thought it was going to be a 3-1-2. I think I gave it a 3-1 to FaZe. But I thought Boston, I don't really know what to expect. FaZe apparently have been just so dominant in scrims. All the coaches said they're basically going to win Major 1. Simp's looking unreal. And that is certainly the case. If there was any doubt that Simp is going to be an MVP candidate, or at least in that conversation this year again, I think he put to bed some of those questions today, because immediately in this series, in all the game modes really, Simp was on a different level. Simp starts off the game on 21-13, and to be fair, given the fact that definitely it's more of an AR dominated game, most maps you see that, but the fact that a lot of teams like playing plenty of Karachi, you see a lot of SMGs, and the rival is very good in many circumstances. Now, aBeZy was apparently playing the game, but we had Cellium's camera. But even though Cellium's camera wasn't there when they went to like the post-game shots showing Cellium, so I don't know what was going on. There was some production issues, but in general, really clean day 1 of matches, which is good to see, given the fact that lots of them went down to the wire, and there was lots happening today. But after a phenomenal start from Simp, it looked like they were just going to run away with this map. But actually, no, Boston came back into it and arguably could have, and they'll probably think they should have won this map, really. They had some chances. They messed up the final rotation. FaZe got there first, and they just locked it down. Honestly, breaking in this game is tough. Karachi, it's kind of doable. Terminal, oh my god. I mean, that map to watch, it's just full 60 after full 60 after full 60. And we'll see more of that in a second. But I kind of got what I expected, really, from Boston. I just thought FaZe were, you know, they looked surprisingly vulnerable. To be honest, I thought FaZe would just come in and smoke them off the face of the planet, really. It looked like they were going to. But, you know, I think Boston played very well. But FaZe were definitely gettable at, and this map too. I will say, it was a pleasure to see smokes on the map, because sure, in the respawns, they don't want to use them for various reasons, but in Search and Destroy, 1 smoke grenade per team, per rounds, that's what's being used, and we see it on the offense especially. you know, on Karachi, it's practically a necessity to try and get out to the B bomb site. So that's what the teams are doing. I think it's nice to see, and another element of strategy to the gameplay experience. And this was another map that I'm sure Boston feel like they should have won. It was a Simp 1v2 clutch, actually. Simp didn't have a very good map here, but he clutched a 1v2 in round 10. Snoopy was in a 1v1. Probably played it a little bit too overeager. This is the thing with Snoopy. When he's on form, he's incredibly good to watch and clearly has a very high ceiling. Like, Snoopy can get some ridiculous kills, some incredible highlight moments, and then he'll go on like a 6 or 7 death streak in a row, and then he'll go on a 6 or 7 kill streak in a row. That's just what you're going to get from Snoopy. Very streaky player, and when he's on, oh my god, like, is he on? When he's not on, it's, you know, and he can make mistakes, he can overheat, and this is the thing. You get to a match situation, you've got Simp versus Snoopy, I know who my money's on. But over time, maybe that's not going to be the case, and I'm sure that Slasher and Priestahh will try and mold those guys. Cap had a great map here as well, but definitely one that Boston will want back. But to be fair to them, they clutched up in the control. They won the control invasion pretty handily, to be fair. Snoopy, this map, went 30 and 17. So, you know, when he's on, as I say, a takeover player, most certainly. Simp again, though, here, though, was 33 and 26 with over 6,000 damage for the loss. I mean, he was absolutely on fire this series. I thought they were going to close it out in 4, but they didn't. It actually went all the way to a game 5 here. Mainly because, you know, it was a terminal hardpoint. You know what to expect on this map at this point. That Burger Town to library, whatever you want to call it, bookshop rotation. You just hold the spawns for 120 seconds, and good luck breaking that, right? We saw on the Karachi Search and Destroy, they're using smokes to get onto B. But because smokes aren't allowed in the respawns, and we can debate the merits of that, good luck breaking these hills, you know, it really is a tall order. Now, it's possible, and it probably will be done more so over time, but yeah, to watch, you just kind of know what's going to happen. Boston take advantage of the situation, though. They take the map 4, but game 5, I mean, to be honest, I wasn't really expecting FaZe to go, 1-2-5, like, they had to win 2 Search and Destroys in this series to win it. I thought maybe Slasher's team would get one of the 2, but maybe it's expected that they'll take some time to warm up in Search and Destroy, but this clutch here from Simp was pretty mesmerizing. He gets 2 kills already. Snoopy's one shot, so he goes for the chal on him, and then he knows where Priestahh is, hops up on the tank and gets the ace as well. So clean from Simp to get this 4K in the first round, got the 1-0 advantage, and then they close it out from there. So Simp close out the series with over 100 kills, 1.27 KD, and Simp's officially back. We knew that Simp and players like this were going to be good this season, but that was certainly a statement. To be fair from Slasher, though, I know he dropped 2 kills in the map 5, but Boston really could have won this series. They probably should have won this series. Both map 1 and map 2 were most definitely winnable. Map 2 especially, really. So I think lots of positives to take away for Boston. I think from the FaZe side, a good series win that was well-deserved, but, you know, I think maybe FaZe fans expected them to come in here and handle business a bit more comfortably against a team that probably isn't that good at the moment, but I think will be increasingly so over time. And on the Boston side, they'll be frustrated they didn't win at the end of the day, because I'm sure they felt like that was winnable. But still, I think a lot of competition in early days here. Simp does say that their control is better than that, so maybe they're better than they appeared today. And actually, Cellium came out with this, no snaking, no problem, GG's Boston 1-3-2. Now, I don't really think anyone was actually saying that Cellium would be washed or FaZe would be washed with no snaking. Like, I don't think anyone was really making that point. I think it's good that there wasn't really any snaking in the game. You see people do it like, not a full snake. You see people do like, you know, they go prone and they stand up just one time. And that's kind of fine, that's kind of allowed, but, you know, you don't want the egregious snaking again and again and again, which thankfully was not really done today, which is a good sign. Hopefully that will continue for significantly longer, but yeah, Cellium gets the victory. Now, to be honest though, the next series I was massively looking forward to seeing how things would go on. This is the new Breaking Point site out, by the way. We had some glitches there on the website, there's some things we've got to figure out, some things to streamline, because brand new site, first day really putting matches on there. Okay, some kinks to solve, but generally it was looking good, and I think the website looks absolutely stunning. But this series was Thieves versus Surge, 2 of the potential big Dark Horse candidates here for the season, and honestly, again, a very competitive series. Don't know what was going on with CDL Ref 7 and exactly what happened here, because Huke just disappeared from the scoreboard quickly, so that was, you know, okay, some technical difficulties day 1, but they eventually got the hang of it. In the end, though, 250 to 235 here on the Karachi, iLLeY 27 and 16. Now, look, Surge, they are better, I think, at this point in the season than people expected them to be in general. I've been very critical of this team, no doubt about it, and I think for understandable reasons. For some reason, RC's was appearing twice here. One of those is Huke, I think because of that whole CDL Ref 7 thing, but as I said multiple times, Surge needed to hit the roulette wheel and, you know, roll red, whatever, multiple times in a row. They needed the meta to suit them, as I think it does at the moment, and they need aBeZy to be a big-time player. They need RCTs to get back to a decent level of form. They need Huke to maintain his good online performance from last season, and especially they need iLLeY back to iLLeY levels in respawns and search and destroy, doing what he was doing, you know, let's say the start of Vanguard on OpTic before the thumb injury. They need that iLLeY, if not even a better version of that iLLeY, if they want to have good success this season. And that's exactly the iLLeY that arrived today, if not probably the best version of iLLeY that I've ever seen. This might be iLLeY's best series ever. And I know it's online qualifiers, but this might be one of the best series that any individual has ever put together in CDL qualifier history, to be honest. It was just absurd. They won the Search and Destroy as well. iLLeY went off in that one. The Control, again, it was like Simp. He was 24 and 13. Okay, they lost the map. Actually, they got destroyed in the map, but iLLeY was still putting up the work, to be honest. And then map 4, iLLeY goes off again. He goes 21 and 14 with 2 minutes in hill for the win. Now, Thieves should probably have won this one. It was a terminal hardpoint. And again, you know, to be honest, all it takes, though, is one break, one collapse. I kind of like the way Terminal plays in a sense, because you know that when the team is set up, it's their 60 seconds to lose. And if they do get broken, if the other team does break it, then, you know, it feels like a big moment, you know? So I don't really hate the way it plays out, and Thieves kind of made a bit of a mistake. Surge got the victory, and iLLeY drops a 1.7 over the series. So aBeZy was a 1 flat. RCTs was slightly negative, actually quite significantly so, but he did a lot of damage in the series. Huke had a 0.84 as well. Everyone on Thieves was marginally negative, but I think they still played pretty well. Just a couple of close hardpoints don't go their way, largely because iLLeY was on fire. 81 in 47 for a 1.7 KD. What is even going on here? So this is the thing with Surge. I think it's a little bit too early to reserve judgment, in the sense that you're not expecting iLLeY to drop a 1.7 every series. So when he drops a 1.0 or a 1.1 or a 0.9, what happens then? You know, does aBeZy step up? Does Huke step up? Does RC step up? Because incredibly impressive from Surge in this series, and from iLLeY especially. It's great to see him back, you know, because there's all this talking point about, well, is his thumb still injured? OpTic dropped him because of those reasons. Takes the time off. Is he going to be able to deliver in his first series on his, you know, attempted redemption season, really? When you've got all this talk about the OpTic curse and Rambo and Huke and iLLeY over there at Surge, and to be fair, Ghosty on Thieves as well. But those guys on Surge especially dropped from OpTic. Does the OpTic curse come into play? And iLLeY first series drops a 1.7 and looks like, you know, the best version of iLLeY that we've ever seen. So whether it is OpTic curse thing really needs to be studied, I don't know. But we'll see if this can continue, because if iLLeY doesn't drop a 1.7, it's early days, you know, to really read too much into how these teams are performing. But the absolute bang-out series that I no doubt about it was OpTic Texas versus the Subliners to close out the day. Pred versus Sib, the World Championship winning team, versus the OpTic Texas boys, who obviously want to do much better this year than they've achieved previously. Crazy series. So many storylines to possibly dive into here, and I'm sure you guys have already left your comments before I've even discussed it in the video right now. Well, let's just dive into it, right? Before we even get into the end of map 1, this is map 1. To be honest, crushing from Subliners. This was a HyDra show, and whenever you think, oh, maybe it's Simp, maybe it's going to be Scrappy, or someone else is going to be MVP, HyDra steps up to kind of remind everyone who this guy is, and why his POV, I think, is probably the best to watch in Call of Duty right now. Man, this guy is just so ridiculously good. The plays he makes, the decision making, it's just so much, it's a joy to watch his POV when he's actually playing well. And to be honest, they kind of crushed map 1. Again, it's players like Kismet, you know. In scrims, I don't know how well Kismet does. But in a match situation, Kismet has the dog in him, you know what I mean? And he's always making important plays in important moments. He comes up with a nice 3-piece to close out map 1. Map 2, again, this was one of these situations that OpTic really probably think they should have won. They'll look back on this series just like Boston will and think, damn, couple of maps here that OpTic really coulda, shoulda, woulda won. And a couple of round 11s, different round 11s that both don't go their way. And I think this is the difference at times between what has historically been a problem with OpTic and what the Subliners are able to do. World Championship winners, they've won, I think, now 11 of their last 12 series. Sib looked great this series as well. I picked him for my fantasy team, so that's looking good. And look, on paper, given today's performances, is Sib an upgrade on Priestahh? Yes, statistically. How is that going to make a difference? You know, there's other factors, of course, at play, but definitely a singing endorsement so far for Sib's addition to the roster. But again, OpTic take it to round 11, but there's a couple of rounds in here that I'm sure they'll want back. The round 11 itself, I think I kind of got unlucky, but still, Subliners got 2-0 in the series. Then OpTic start to bounce it back right in this game 3. It goes OpTic's way. in an absolute insanity Karachi control. This round one, again, there's certain moments, and it's been a thing with so many OpTic teams now, and you're seeing the trends again, to be honest, from this OpTic team, that there's moments that a championship winning team or a team that consistently wins finals doesn't even come close to losing. And this is one of those rounds where OpTic should have won it like 2 minutes ago. And then they let Subliners get away for kills. Subliners then got some ticks on B. Kismet stayed alive forever. They then got A, and even with a life advantage, they nearly got B, and with 0.0 seconds on the clock, OpTic close out the rounds. There was another similar round, actually, to close out the map here, where in the very final round, it was another absolute bang out, and OpTic had a big life lead, and they had all the ticks, but it took them like 4 or 5 waves to actually just about get over the line, and it came down to a 1 versus 1 at the end as well, and there was a few situations OpTic maybe threw away a life or two they shouldn't have done, and they were lucky, to be honest, to get away with the victory, which should have been kind of comfortable. Map 4, though, Kenny took over. And to be honest, we talked about this on the Dope Check episode we did with AC Girls Map still on the Breaking Point channel, but it's Kenny and Shotzzy, to me, the two X factors for the team. And Kenny, I was high on Kenny coming into this team. I thought he was going to be a great addition. He proved that, I think, out of game as well, but also in game today. Like, he was the MVP of today's series for OpTic, no doubt. Had a phenomenal terminal hardpoint. Again, there was a couple of rotations that OpTic kind of messed up. They got broken where they really shouldn't have done, but they locked down Burger, they locked down Bookshop, and that was basically 120 seconds that brought them right back to winning the game. Map 5, though, is where a lot of the questions will be asked about this series, because OpTic found themselves in prime position here to win, especially when you've got moments like this. Shotzzy just got a ridiculous 3-piece. You know, I know that Crone said today that people in his Discord have been calling him TikToksy, and I get that, because some of the plays Shotzzy makes, you have to understand, you've got to let Shotzzy do this, because when it works, and you don't want to restrict the playmaking ability he has. But there are some occasions where he throws his life away, and it happens multiple times every series. Sometimes he's going to get a ridiculous 3-piece like this, which is going to put OpTic on match points. They move up 5-4. The very next rounds, they get a 3v2 advantage, and Shotzzy and Pred both die within about 20 seconds. Kenny's left in a 1v2, he loses it, and then it's around 11. It's like, those are the moments you have to close out. 3 versus 2 advantage, round 10, you've got to close those out. They don't. It goes around 11, and then, to be honest, again, Subliners offense round 11 is pretty difficult on this map generally. They get into the plane, they get the first blood, and it wasn't even a close round. So Kenny, not a happy man about this, threw that away. He says, GG's New York. Now, to be fair, OpTic did a great job bringing this back. Down 2-0 to the world champions. Okay, different team, but you know what I mean. They bring it back to a game 5, round 10, where they had a 5-4 edge. They really should have probably closed out. And Dashy was fuming. Like, Dashy left the game immediately. He was straight out of there. Wasn't even on the final scoreboard. And Dashy's numbers, over the series, don't look bad. I mean, he had a 0.8. Okay, they're bad for Dashy's, level, you know what I mean? This is probably one of the worst series Dashy will have all year, to be honest. So, as a 0.87, not many kills, especially compared to Kenny, just had a very lackluster series. To such a degree that he just straight up rage quit the game in the very final round. He didn't even turn up for the final rounds. Okay, he was there, but he rage quit before the scoreboard turned up. So, Dashy not happy about it. Kenny, of course, knows they kind of threw this away. Very early days, but I think promising signs from both teams. OpTic, clearly, the ability to bring back in the series. Kenny playing well. And look, Shotzzy, as I say, he made some mistakes, but also on the control, for example, he was making massive plays that won his team the game at times. Sib had some good moments on the other side. HyDra actually ended up negative, which is kind of rare despite the start that he had. Dashy with an underwhelming series, though. Just loads of talking points today, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it will progress for the rest of the weekends. But very much interested in your thoughts and all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.